Hi, welcome to some pincushion ideas with GourmetQuilter. I'm Susan Clare, the GourmetQuilter, and we're doing 20 different pincushions, one each day for 20 days, and we are up to pincushion number 12, so we're well into the series now. And this time we're going to be doing a nice little travelling one that kind of folds up into a little, like a little bag. So I'll just mention that on GourmetQuilter.com there's some more information. If you're interested in receiving the patterns, that information is all on the website on GourmetQuilter.com. The pattern for this one is going to give you shapes to cut out and information, etc, etc. So I'm just going to show you how to make it so that you'll know how to make it. So this is what we're doing. It's this very cute little thing. It looks a little bit like a little bag, and it opens up. And you can open it pretty much right out like that, and inside is this wonderful little pincushion. How cute is that? Great if you're going away travelling, if you're doing any number of things. And then we've got little pockets here where you could keep little packets of needles or all sorts of things, and you could keep your little clips in there as well. There's just so many things that it's good for, and I think the fact that you can just cover it all up with pins and everything in it and just take it away. So many of us go away on little sewing retreats or weekends or just because. How cute is that? So I've gone ahead and I've cut out most of my pieces here, possibly all my pieces. So as I mentioned in the pattern, there is a shape for tracing and things. So I've cut out all the pattern. This is half of it, so you need to repeat it that way or place it on a fold. And this is the shape for the little pincushion piece in here, that little wedge shape there. So I've gone ahead and I've cut out my pieces. So we need a couple of pieces for the outside, so that's where I've got the pale green here. We need two like that, and we need one of a thin batting, and I'm suggesting a really thin batting. And then for the pocket piece, we need two pieces that look a lot like that, but they haven't got the points on there, so we chomp them off. So that's all on the pattern information here. So you can use this whole shape on the fold for the full size one, and then for the pockets there's lines marked where the cutting is for the pocket, and you can just fold those in, and that gives you this shape here for the pockets. So it's all quite convenient. There's also a pattern for the shapes. There's also a circle, because we're going to be putting and I'm using template plastic for my circles. I'm going to be using two together because it's quite firm in the base here of the actual pincushion, but we'll get to that shortly. And then I've just used some ribbon for the little loops to put the cord through, and then just a fine cord to go through here, which could also be a ribbon if you didn't want to use a cord or something else. So I thought I'd go ahead and get started with this. So we've got our two shapes here, and one of them's got batting behind, and then to put our little loops in here for the cord, we've got these little pieces of a ribbon, and I've just folded them in half, and I've actually already done it, gone ahead and just stitched them in place on each point so that that's all ready to go. So we can set that aside for the moment. And then on this piece here, so that's the piece with the batting behind, not the other piece. This one here, we've got two of these shapes. I have actually already done a fair bit of the stitching on it, and somewhere there is one that is not stitched here, so I can just show you. But there are actually two of these. And we just need to stitch across this straight line. That's going to be a little pocket edge across here. So I've got one more to do, so I thought I'd just stitch that just so that you're sure which bit it is that I'm stitching. So it's just the straight line across, just using our regular seam allowances that we do, 1/4 of an inch. And then we want to turn that out the right way, so just through one of these gaps, so we're only sewing those straight bits, so then we can turn this out the right way, and then we just want to press those, and we're going to top stitch along those bits that we've just stitched. So we'll get them pressed and we'll start getting them stitched. So it's just a matter of going around each one and just pressing that over. Such a cute little pincushion, like a little surprise inside. I do like a surprise. So this think we're done. So now I have to go around on each of those 6 sides and top stitch approximately 1/4 of an inch away. So I'll go ahead and do that, and then I can show you the next bit. So I've gone ahead, I've top stitched my little pocket tops there. So now I need my piece here with my batting on, and as I said, I've already sewn my little cord loops on. So I just want to position this one now right on top, and everything should fit because we've cut it all from the same pattern piece. And we can pop a couple of pins in there if you like. It would be a good idea at this stage, if you happen to have cut some circles out of a template plastic like I have. We do need at some stage to mark the centre. Now it is on the pattern. We need a circle. We are going to be stitching that circle at some stage. So it's quite helpful to have a little centre marking, because I didn't mark it before. And we can pop the circle on so that it's sitting in the centre. And that's looking pretty good, and I can check it with this if I want to. Oh, look at that, pretty amazing. And I'm not sure if this pencil is going to show up. I haven't got a lighter one here with me, but a line is a really helpful thing for where that circle's going to go. That looks pretty good. So once we've got our circle marked, we will be stitching it later, but we also want to be able to turn it out the right way. So we're going to just fold that more or less in half. It doesn't have to be exact at this stage, and we're just going to cut a little slash in there right through everything. And we can do it in both directions. It's probably just a little bit easier to have like a little X type slash in the middle there. So definitely within the circle, in the centre area is great, and that's going to be fine for pulling through later on. So we can just leave that slash there, and now what we want to do is place our pieces right sides together with everything in there. I'm just going to take those pins out again just because I don't want to get attacked as I'm turning it out the right way. So everything should sit nicely together, and so what we now need to do is stitch all the way around with our 1/4 inch seam allowance, and we don't have to leave a gap for turning because we've left a slash through everything on that side. So this will include all the pockets, it'll include the little tabs for the cord casing and everything. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch all the way around there, and then I will show you how we do the next bit. I'm just coming down the last one of these, ready to meet up, and we need to bring these points in a fair way so that we get that nice separation of pieces. So here I am back where I started, so that's all looking pretty good. And just want to make sure everything's looking good on both sides, and it's looking pretty impressive. So what we need to do now is we do need to stitch right in, we need to clip, sorry, not stitch, right into our sewing, but not to cut that stitching line, but in close, because these are going to be pulling out the other out against themselves. So we just need to clip in fairly close to that stitching so it's got lots of room to move. Do all these, and then the other thing I would suggest is possibly, because everything's on a bit of a curve, would be to just trim the seams all the way around. So here I've done all the clipping now, so I would probably just trim these seams, not a lot, but just sort of down a little bit so that there's just a little bit less bulk going around all the seams. So I'll go ahead and trim all my seams and we'll do the next bit. So I've gone ahead, I've trimmed all my seams, I've just trimmed the little tops off there so that there's not too much sitting up in there either. And now we just want to turn it out the right way. So through our little hole that we made in here, we just want to turn all of those, they're almost like petals, it's almost like a little lotus flower opening up, this little thing. And we should be able to pull those little tabs out at the tops there, should have little pockets appearing here. And then we'll need to press it. So I might go ahead and get all this turned out so that we can press it. So I've gone ahead and turned it all out, and I've got my trusty chopstick here, so I just suggest that you run around all those edges so that we can now press all that nicely, because we're going to top stitch around that edge. And just pay attention to these corners, because we clipped into them, they should come out pretty well, and the pressing will certainly help with that as well. So just keep this centre bit nice and flat. Irons are such a great invention. They make life so much better. Although I have to say, ironing shirts every day is not necessarily a favourite occupation, but ironing pincushions, now there's a thought. So I'm just going to press from the other side as well, make sure that those corners are all sitting as best we can get them, and they're all looking pretty good, I think. Keep that centre, the slash bit area that we did, keep that as flat as you can, because we want it to stay flat when we put the pincushion on top. So what we want to do now is go around and just top stitch maybe 1/8 of an inch away all the way around. Now you could take the stitching right down to the circle. Also we're going to do a top stitch of the circle. I found that that was just nice to have that circle actually stitched, because it helps when we're putting the pincushion in as well. So with these pockets here, at the moment the pockets kind of go all the way through. So even though we're going to be stitching the pincushion there and things, if you don't want to risk things running through those little tiny gaps there in those little corners in here, then I suggest as you're doing the top stitching you stitch down to that circle line and back again, and that would just make sure everything is contained, because when we do this circle and if we do those right down, that will contain everything into a little pocket individually. So I'll go ahead and get all my stitching done. I think I'm going to do the circle first, so that I can bring those lines down to the circle. I've just finished the circle, and because I'm right near one of these little intersection bits here, I can go straight on to doing my top stitching around there. So I can come from that circle and do my 1/8 all the way around. So I'll continue on doing this now and show you when I get to the other end. So I'm just about finished my top stitching, coming right back now circle, and there we have our cover all ready to go. So just give it a press. Always have to press everything, it seems. So now we're ready to make the actual pincushion. So I've got my pieces all cut out here. So I'm going to alternate. I've got a little stripy bit going in this time. I thought that would be quite fun to use a stripe. So we need to alternate them around, and I'm suggesting that we sew it into 2 halves. So put 3 together and 3 together, and then join that as 2 halves. I think might be the easiest way to go ahead and do that. And this is just straightforward. It's just 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. So I'll go ahead and get these joined up into their 3s, and we'll do put the 2 bits together. So I've got my 2 halves joined together, looking kind of fun with this stripy. And now we just need to join those 2 halves, so we can kind of pop one inside the other. Just make sure that your centre is sitting fairly well together for this seam, so that you get a nice little bit in the middle. The other option, of course, if things are not looking quite right in the middle, is we can always attach a decorative button, bead, who knows. Hopefully we're going to get it right. So now it's just that seam joining those 2 halves together. and that's not looking too bad at all. So I'm quite happy with that. So you may want to just trim some of those seams a little bit, although I'm thinking it's probably okay because we're going to be filling it up with that walnut shell. You could put a little bit of soft filling in the top if you wanted to, maybe just a little tiny bit just in the very top. The other thing I'm probably going to do though, rather even than that, is maybe put some of that in afterwards. What we're going to be doing is filling it, so I'm going to be using the crushed walnut shell, and then to make it up we're going to fill it first, and then we're going to pop the couple of circles in and then bring the fabric and lace that across. So I'm going to go ahead and fill it now. As I said, you could use some fibre fill in the top if you wanted to. I think this is fine. And I can just go straight into it this time. I don't even need the funnel. How amazing is that? But then to make sure it goes in nice and full, that's when I probably would use some of this fibre fill at this stage to try and to really squidge it, because you can't really squidge the shell so much because it kind of just moves. But this will help compact everything in, and then we do have to leave enough room to turn those edges over. So I may find I've got a little bit much in here, but by just having that soft bit there, that kind of allows us to really fill the space, which is not always as easy just with the shell. That's looking pretty good. So you want to make sure you've got a slightly more than your 1/4 inch should be sticking up over that, and it should be sitting fairly flat there. And what we need to do now is just have a needle and thread handy. So I just happen to have my needle and thread handy here. So I'm just going to, I've got a double thread, and I'm just going to just crisscross all the way across this plastic just to hold this edge in, because then we're going to be stitching it onto that outside bit that we've just made. So really this is just like a sort of lacing across. And you may need to do a bit of this to keep it nice and even and smooth, so that we get a nice smooth edge around this outside, and just make sure you're keeping it nice and taut in there. So I'll go ahead and keep getting this done and show it to you when it's finished. So beautiful sewing, look at that. It looks a little bit like my brain feels, a little bit cross-wired here, there and everywhere. So I've just been sewing across and going around and trying to get this edge as smooth as we can get it. And I think that's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty well filled on this side. So I'm pretty happy with that. So what we need to do now is stitch that, and we will have to do this bit by hand, onto a circle there. So we've already stitched that circle, so we know exactly where we want to put it, because then these bits will fold up around it. So now it's just a matter of going around and stitching that all in place, which we can do. It's not, I wouldn't say super easy, but it's not particularly hard to do this. Even I can do it. So I can just like a little hemming stitch that comes all the way around. So just into there and into this little bit on the pincushion. So by having that circle that we've already stitched, that gives us a line to work to, which is really helpful. And so I'll keep going and get this all stitched on, and then we've just got to put the cord in. I think we're pretty much well on our way with this pincushion. So my pincushion is all stitched on, it's all looking pretty good, and I've already put one of the ribbons through. I'm putting double through so that you could manage just with one, but I just always like that double sort of pull up arrangement. So I've joined it here. So now I'm going to thread the other one from the opposite end all the way around. So I've just got a bodkin or a large eye needle just to take this. And I'm using ribbon this time. I put cord in the last one, but I thought I'd try it with ribbon this time. Thought that was quite nice. Now the ribbon seems awfully long. However, if we want this to open out not even absolutely flat, but almost flat, then we do need it to be quite long. So that's gone all the way around. And then all I have done on this end is, with another piece of the ribbon same ribbon I used for the little loops was basically to wrap it. So I've stitched it to there, and then I've just trimmed off the little sticky ends, the sticky out ends, and then I've just folded that in and stitched that across. So just so that it's covered, and it's also just something to grab hold of to pull like that. So I might go ahead and do that, but now that you've seen it all finished, I think it's absolutely fine, and you can imagine exactly how that's going to look without me doing that little bit in front of you. As I said, it's just a matter of stitching it together. So I think that looks really good. I'm really excited by the pincushion. I love the fact that it opens out, that I can keep things in here, that if I want to I can use it for clips as well as pins and needles and things. Even a tiny pair of scissors would fit in there if you had one that tiny. But if you're going away somewhere, it's perfect like that. And yes, the cords do seem long, so that's because of it being able to open it out. But just a little loop that you can, like a little slip knot loop, and that just works perfectly for me. I think that's fantastic, so I hope you think so too. So that was pincushion number 12 of our series, and thank you for watching, and I will see you again with pincushion number 13.